Hello everyone and welcome to the next Metra Monthly Update. This is the update for May. I am the Chairman and CEO, Derek Boyd, and this is...
I'm Vladimir Stakov, the President and Secretary. So let's get into it. We're going to do two smaller update kind of deals, and then we're going to move on to the real big thing of this month that we've been dealing with for pretty much the vast majority of the month. So unfortunately, our tenant over at 130 had left. They left very respectfully. They cleaned everything up. We actually just got done viewing the property today. They just couldn't figure out how to get the electric on and just said, honestly, they couldn't afford the payment. So they asked if they could just leave. We told them it's not a problem. And so they ended up leaving. So that property is going to be going back up for sale for owner finance because honestly, the condition of it, we don't really want to deal with it, so it's better off to put it back up for owner finance on that. Another update is that earlier this month we did make the decision to increase the rental amounts from 420 to 470. I'm sorry, 425 to 470 on every single of our grandfather tenants because their year agreement just expired, coming into this month being June, because we're recording this on May 31st. So that means that 120, 124, 134, 116, and then a little bit of a special case of 104. They actually wanted to get a rental increase, so we would take over repairs on that unit. So they all ended up getting increased from, like I said, 425 to 470. That'll make our budgeting a lot easier in the months to come, and also allow us to do what we've been wanting to do for a very long time, which is to re-gravel the whole park.
Yeah.
That's kind of the big incentive behind our rental increase.
Because basically what we're getting now is an extra $45 per unit. Well, I should say out of 5 units, right? So it's $235. Roughly speaking, because it was about $1,200 for the last time we got gravel, which was 2 loads. So you're talking give or take every 6 months or so. We have enough money, so twice a year we can get 2 more loads. Not including any other increases and things we have going on, but the objective is to probably get another like 10-ish loads out there. So this will help that process. We now can kind of just full on set aside some of that money to immediately go towards gravel, while also having the rest of the money already accounted for. We already kind of budgeted around it for what we already plan on doing, which is repairs and whatnot. Plus Vlad's dying this episode.
Yeah, sorry. I've been dealing with a lot of throat issues, so... But moving on. All right, and moving on. This is kind of the big thing we've been dealing with for pretty much the entire month of May, and it's kind of ridiculous that's even gone on this long. We have a bit of a whopping story for you guys in regards to 108 and the eviction we've had. So if you guys remember, we left off last month that the person living at 108 was supposed to have paid us $1,080. Well, they did end up paying that late, because in our last video we said they didn't pay that and we were just going to move forward with the rid. Well, like usual, they had the money late. So what we ended up doing is, because the next payment that they had to do with the septic stuff, we could not get any validation whatsoever that any work had been done at all. I mean, literally nothing. There was no proof at all about the work.
Let me follow up with that. So I called well, first off, we went there, right? We physically went to the house. If you remember from last episode, we physically went there right after the court hearing and didn't see any actual what looked like a repair had been made. Didn't see, well, first off, he didn't have anything to show us, like any evidence of before, during, or after the repair. Then we followed up with, we asked him, I don't know if we got this in the last video, I think we may have. Oh yeah, we did. So I followed up with him to get the contractor, friend, whatever you want to call it, that was doing the work. And he got it to me like 5 days before the due date of his continuation, which was for both of us, continuation for him to make payment, continuation for us to follow up on the repair. And I tried numerous times, like 15 times, to get a hold of these guys. Finally got hold of them like once, right before the continuation due date, and they said that they had only charged him for labor, and that they had charged him just the $1,100 for digging up a drainage line,
which is absurd.
Yeah,
absolutely absurd. There was no materials listed on there at all.
Yeah, and then I did a follow-up call, I believe, after the video recording, where this was like Saturday or Sunday before I wound up having to get a hold of the judge, which was like whatever that Monday is, Monday the 1st or 2nd, whatever day it was. Where I got a hold of them one more time, and they told me, actually they called me, I remember now, they called me and let me know that they had done a little bit more investigating, I guess, into what was going on with that work order that they had, and they told me that on their end, he didn't know this specific guy is like the owner of the company, and then there's like obviously individual contractors that work for him that he's
subcontracting like subcontractors.
So basically, head guy I was talking with didn't know if our tenant at 108 paid to the subcontractor and then just never reported it to the owner. The owner only saw on his end that it was an open work order, and then they never received any of the 1,100.
Which his claim in court was obviously that he paid for that, or that he was making payments to it, and they're over here telling us that they've never received a single dollar from it. So
now we have conflicting stories and no evidence of anything. So we have the issue of what he's supposed to be getting credited, because he said that at one point that he had paid a portion of it already to the contracting company, which I think he said he paid like 500 or he owed 500, something like that. Anyways, he owed something. And then there's the issue of they said they haven't received any of it, at least they have nothing on file. Then neither one of them, the tenant nor the contracting company, have any evidence of any repair whatsoever. There's no pictures, there's no written documents whatsoever. The only thing they have is an invoice.
Which, by the way, as a licensed contractor, you can't do that. Because the reason you're licensed is because you're insured. That's the whole point of having a license. You have to show everything from before and after work at all times.
So basically, if anything goes wrong, they know what was physically repaired, and if it was done correctly, then the liability.
Otherwise, obviously, if you have no proof, any and all damages could potentially be argued that now that guy's insurance has to pay out for, because they can't prove what the guy did or didn't work on.
So the reason why this is all important is because then on Monday, when I talked with the judge, which was initially for the fact that he was behind on the 1080 and he didn't have it on the day that he was supposed to have it. Well, once again, we had two parts to this. He had to pay the 1080 by the 28th, and we had to find out about what was going on with the credit, because if he wasn't getting credited, then he had to pay 1080 plus 1100. And so we talked with the judge. Judge obviously was trying to figure out some way she can make it work out, because she genuinely wanted us to just try to figure out a compromise of some kind, and she doesn't like throwing people out on the street. She blatantly said this. So she asked us for one more time, and we try to work with them. We're like, fine, whatever. So that's when I remember I told you guys in the video, because I did some basic research, looked in, saw Home Depot, you could rent a 24-hour backhoe for $300, and then I factored in gas and then time to do it. And so we said we would credit $450, and so he agreed to do $650 as a payment. Now, here's the way court works, right? You can't force anybody into anything whenever it comes to basically like a court order after the fact, right? So he has to call in, not be coerced anyway.
Either physically show up or call in.
Yeah, physically show up or call in. Can't be coerced, can't be under duress, can't be basically being threatened at his life or something. He has to voluntarily call in and validate that he wants to do this new deal. So basically the new deal was we would pay $450, he would pay $650. So basically he would just pay us $650 because he's already behind us, or behind on us. So he called, I talked with him, he agrees to this. He calls the judge, voluntarily agrees that he'll pay $650. And then I call in after the fact, agree that yes, I will pay $450 of it, give him that to his credit, so he only owes us $650, and that we will give him an extension to make that payment, so he'll be due the 13th of May. So this is like basically another week and a half away.
And this is 2 days away, because we did bring up to this as a concern to the judge. This is 2 days away from his actual rental payment, so we got a full extension and continuation of the case going on into the next week. So in a sense, basically like towards the 16th and 17th, either payment had to have been made or the writ is getting issued. That's basically how it ended up going.
So she gave him, really, it wasn't for us, it was him, gave him the continuation, so he got until the 13th. Well, that led into more common issues with this guy.
So on the 13th, he didn't pay. That's simple. He didn't have the $650 at all. And then he claimed that he would have the $650 and the $800 on the 15th, that he would go on ahead and have that ready to go. The 15th, he didn't pay. Then the 16th rolls around.
So this is now Monday. So to be fair, the 15th was a Sunday. We were like, okay, we understand you may not physically be able to bank on a weekend. So we'll be willing to give an additional day, but I had to talk with the judge by Tuesday. She wanted me to talk with her Monday, but I gave another day for this guy to do his banking routine.
So now we're on the 16th. The guy had sworn the day before, literally the day before. This guy's a chronic liar. Like, I'm sorry, there's not a nice way to put this.
And all this is via text messages. We didn't call or do any of that stuff. We have everything documented, so that way if anything comes up, like an issue, which we expected, show it to the judge.
Yeah. So supposedly now on the 16th, when he was supposed to have paid this all in cash, so he would have had the $800 for rent and the $650 that we agreed to do the split with the septic work. All of a sudden, he's having Cash App issues. Cash App is withholding and holding his money. He can't get it out, or he can't send it. And I told Derek, once Derek told me, I was like, now, by midnight, he has to show us proof, because he said that he sent in emails to support. He said that he had attempted calling them, and he had attempted the payment twice. If you attempt any kind of payment in any banking institution, even if it fails, it shows a record that it failed. Always does. So I told Derek, I want to see proof of the failure, proof of the email correspondence between him and like the Cash App support, and just proof that he has the funds. The only thing he did is he sent in proof that he had the funds, which were in a random bank account for somebody else, and it was like a large amount of funds too. Like it didn't make any sense.
It was his daughter's bank account, so we were like, maybe I guess this constitutes credit, because she had
like 20,000 or something like that.
Yeah,
it was ridiculous.
She had gotten a Department of Education loan. And so I was like, wait, what? I was like, is he trying to argue that the amount of money that he has to pay us is based on the loan she got for college? I'm like, that makes no sense.
Taking college fund money to pay the land, that's a whole different moral issue. But the thing is, that's not proof of what we were asking for. That doesn't prove that he himself has the funds available to him. And so we ended up on the 17th going with the writ, because honestly, we were done with it. We called up the judge, let her know what happened. I physically drove down there myself. I turned around and I paid the writ fees and everything else I had to get it issued. And then Derek scheduled out the writ, which the eviction date with us and the police officer and 4 young strapping men to help carry out all this dude stuff, because it's our responsibility, because they refuse to honor their agreements and move when they've defaulted. Was scheduled out for the 25th. So we go out there on the 25th. We think everything's good. We think everything's going.
Remember, whenever we do any of this stuff, we always call that day to verify that 1, the officer's going to be there, and 2, that everything is still scheduled to happen. So I called at 10 a.m. that morning. It was scheduled for 1 p.m. for the officer to be there, and 4 young strapping lads.
Yeah, because it's dumb, because I literally had to grab my own room rental tenant. Like we mentioned before, we rent out the rooms. I had to grab my own room rental tenant to be our 4th dude, and then we had to use a close friend between both him and I as well. So now we have the 4 bodies to sit there and do this.
Yeah, so I called at 10 a.m. They said, yeah, everything's good to go. And then we show up there, and
he has a piece of paper saying that he filed an appeal. So he appealed a non-payment default eviction.
And I want to read the complaint.
Yes. This is public record, so really, we don't have to hide anything. I'll also put up the complaint here for you guys to see as well.
Yeah, I'm not going to say his name, but I am going to read his complaint because it's very funny.
Oh, yeah. It's very juicy.
So basically, once again, this is specifically for the appeal of the writ of ejectment that we got because of non-payment.
Yes.
That's it. That's all this is for.
We didn't argue anything contractually whatsoever.
Yeah, this is just for non-payment. Okay? So unless he can prove he paid, then either way, he's
irrelevant.
So, blah, 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 20th of May, 22nd. So this is on the 20th. We did it 5 days prior to us actually showing up there. So he said the appellant's exceptions to the judgment of the magistrate are set forth as follows: fraud, misrepresentation, misconduct on landlord's part. This writing's terrible. Newly discovered evidence. Defendant's right was violated due to judge and plaintiff conspiring with each other. The fact of ruling and prior conditions. Too many inconclusive actions between plaintiff and judge.
So let me break this down to dum-dum speak level. We bought the judge off, baby.
That's what he
Damn
said.
right.
Yeah.
Oh, we've done it, dude. Metra's made it. If you're rich enough to be able to buy a judge off, you're riding high, baby. You're going to the moon. There is nothing stopping you. You are the creme de la creme.
Yeah.
We've become the mafia.
He's not even arguing anything about what we did. He's saying that the court...
That we didn't credit him the right amount. Like, those would have been very valid arguments to make.
He's just saying that he has been basically wronged by the system. The court
system.
Yeah, the courts, the judge, and then us somewhere in part of all that are all bringing him down. And in his specific wording, we were conspiring against him.
I'm not even a millionaire, and I'm already able to buy off judges, dude. I'm clearly doing something right.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. It's so funny to me.
So
Derek and I have read this complaint so many times. Every time I read it, I can't help but laugh. It is the dumbest appeal possible.
Let me tell you that the judge also read the complaint.
Oh, yeah, because when you... Let me explain the court system real quick. So whenever you file an appeal, this is very important. You're basically saying that the judgment the judge rendered is wrong for XYZ reason. That's what that little sheet, like the fill-out page that you guys saw, that's what that portion is for. You're explaining why it is wrong. Well, here's the thing. That gets sent to the original judge, and the original judge has to compile all their notes and everything that happened within the proceeding, all the dates, and then write a disposition of why they made the decision that they made. Now, you tell me, if somebody appealed your case, not because of one particular thing that was decided on, but because they were saying that you are a fraudster and that you are literally colluding with another party when you're supposed to be neutral and impartial, how happy you are going to be in your disposition to the higher court.
Especially when she was basically bending over backwards.
He got 2 continuations, technically 3 if you include that one more day.
Yeah.
3 continuations.
So basically, it's like, it's not like biting the hand that feeds you, but it's like spitting in the hand of the helping hand kind of thing.
Yeah.
And so, she was not a very happy camper. No. I'll tell you that, because she gave us some great information.
So Derek and I were trying to figure out what to do, because the thing is that obviously after the 25th, we started doing some research because we're like, we don't know what to do. So, I was trying to figure out what we should do next because we hadn't even been served. And I'm sorry, I'm not going to sit there and just wait all this time for an appeal to happen, because when we found out today, because we went to courts today, Common Pleas Court, which is where the appeal is happening in Anderson, it's backed up for 4 months.
Yeah.
Meaning we wouldn't even get a potential hearing until 4 months out for an eviction case of non-payment. Absolutely ridiculous. Well, Derek and I were doing research. We're trying to figure it out. I ended up calling our attorney, and we talked with him about what he thought we should do, and he gave us some great advice. He told us that what we should do is we should issue out a bond for stay. Now, a bond for stay is very simple. If somebody ever appeals an eviction case for any reason, like whether it's a contractual eviction case or whatever else, you then can file this bond for stay, which basically what it does is that the person will be court ordered, required to pay you on a specific date that you guys have set in your lease with a 5-day grace period. And if they do not pay by that 6th date, their appeal automatically gets thrown out and the writ of ejectment is back on. They can't appeal again, because the thing is, they still have to be in good performance and in good faith of the agreement and the court processes to do it. Well, the problem was, Derek and I, because we didn't want to hire our attorney because he usually charges us a $4,000 retainer, which it is fair, by the way. Like, they do have to do a lot of work and pay all these fees and stuff like that to get things filed. But he just gave us a general advice on it. So today, him and I made the effort of running around trying to figure out how to do this bond for stay. And we went to Common Pleas, we talked with them, they weren't 100% sure, but they told us that we do not file it with the Common Pleas Court, which I found very weird. Even though it had been appealed and it's now in their court system, we don't file a bond for stay with them. We filed a bond for stay with the initial judge that we did the eviction with that's getting appealed. Now, here's the funny thing about this. So the judge literally, when we went to her and we told her that we wanted to do a bond for stay, she wasn't 100% sure how to do it. So she reached out to I don't even know what you would call it, like the South Carolina circuit of like how to run a courtroom, like email
like,
advice hotline, whatever the judges
like
have.
The network of judges and administration on the entire process.
Like the South Carolina Supreme Court or something like that, of like how courtrooms should operate. I'm not entirely sure, but it's basically an exclusive only judges self-help landline of some kind. So she reached out to them, and then she called us back and she let us know that, I already have it set up. So basically all it is just a paperwork form that they then fill out themselves. They put everything together, and then we just fill out a couple of little parts here and there. We submit it in, and then we get summoned back into court. Us and the tenant get summoned back into court to dictate what his payments have to be, at what time they have to be, at the specific location that they have to be at. And if he fails to pay it, his appeal is getting thrown out. Now you tell me how happy a judge is that you just accused of committing fraud and colluding with another party is going to be to see you back in their courtroom.
Yep.
Oh, dude, it's going to be so hard for me not to laugh. It is going to be so hard for me not to laugh.
You now also have to argue, because from his perspective, the tenant, he's going to have to argue that he shouldn't have to pay. When that's the whole original reason that the hearing started, was because of failure to payment or behind payments. And now he's going to have to sit in this bond hearing saying like, no, because they screwed me and you screwed me, being the judge the first time, I should have to pay again because you guys continue to screw me. You guys are still colluding with each other. Yeah, just imagine how disastrous that's
and just the rage that's gonna keep
and the
building
best
up
part
with the
is
judge.
too is that because specifically this is what the judge decided to do. She said based on how she wanted to kind of handle this, because in the last hearing, the first only hearing we've had so far with him, where he argued that for whatever reason, I guess he argued this point, that he said that we would refuse to accept his payments, or we made it hard for him to make payments to us, which is the dumbest thing I've ever heard in my life. Because I've never heard of a landlord saying, I don't want your payment.
It's complete and total BS.
I have never heard that.
They have so many ways to pay us. You can mail us checks.
Yeah.
You can pay with our online system, Cash App, Venmo. You could sit there and we can meet you for cash payments. Yeah. I mean, dude, I don't know any other way to offer you payments.
He basically was just throwing stuff out of his ass just to make sure he could try to get some type of win out of that court case, which, as we all know, didn't work. But anyways, the point I'm bringing this up is because he said that back then, she said today, going into the next hearing, that when he most likely will have to make these payments, that she's going to make him have to pay it at the court.
So the way this will work is that he has to go to the court, make the payment. The court then informs us, and we come and collect the payment.
So not only is he going to have to go to this hearing, get told that he has to pay money like normal, and it's going to be with the late fee already attached too, which is great. But then on top of all of that,
I'll admit, I was in a little bit of a fit of rage when we showed up on the 25th. And we, as we just mentioned, obviously we had just did a rental increase. This is why I brought this up first. See, thinking ahead. We had just did a rental increase on all of our other grandfather tenants because their year contract with us expired, and we converted them all over to month and so on and so forth. Well, he was the only one we didn't do a rent increase on.
And remember,
because
he's the only other renter we have left. Everybody else is owner finance.
Because we thought that he was going to be evicted.
So we were just going to go up with the next tenant when they came in.
So while we had a police officer there to witness this, I wrote up his rental increase and handed it to him right there. At first, he was like, nah, you could show that to the judge and be like, well, I'm sorry, but whether you want to accept this or not, this is your notice of a rental increase. As soon as I said that, he was like, what? And then he sat there and took it. He's like, oh, you gonna do this to me? It's like, no, we're not doing it to you. Because here's the thing, you can't do that discriminately. Just because this guy's pissed me off to no end, you can't just increase the rent to whatever. You can't increase it to realistically whatever you want.
South Carolina, there's no limit.
We
can literally go to like $10,000 next month. It'd be a little egregious. Courts would probably get pissy, but technically you can.
Yeah, and so the thing is that because we had just done it to everybody else, he was the only one that we didn't do. If it was actually reverse the discrimination, because he was getting the preferential treatment while everyone else wasn't. So he's going up from a casual $900 a month is what it says on paperwork with a $100 discount to $1,300 a month, because that's exactly what we charge for Prince Perry. And then at the same time,
know what Prince Perry is, not in this portfolio.
Oh, okay.
We have a personal home that's almost the exact same model, make, Literally the only difference is he's roughly on 2 acres. That one's on 3/4 of an acre. And we charge that exact rate. And that's still well below market rent for that.
And if you look at market rents right now, like 3-bedroom, 2 baths are going for like 1,500 to 1,800. It's a third.
While we were there with the when we were trying to do the eviction initially, and he handed this over to him, and the cop was present. Even the cop mentioned, he's like, "Oh, that's actually a pretty reasonable rate." He's like, "Man, he was paying cheap before," and we were like, "Yeah, unfortunately, because we were just trying to literally stabilize the park at the time, so he got us at a good opportunity moment." But basically, it was pretty funny because we were talking.
It's bad when the cop's looking at the road. That's pretty cheap.
Yeah, it was really funny because even the cop was like, "Oh, that's a pretty good rate. It's not bad." And then, like I said, he was like, when he got the paper, so this is the tenant reading it over, obviously gets mad, says back to us, "You're just going up on my rent? Just me?" And we're like, "No, we went up on everybody's." And he was like, "Well, how much?" And he's like, "Everybody went up $400?" And I was like, "No, everybody went up a percentage equal to market value."
That unit is 15 years newer than all the other units in our park. And so all of them.
We were like, that's the dumbest argument. Of course it didn't all go up a flat rate. The other ones are way cheaper because they're in way shittier condition. Not to mention, let me clarify a few things. One, he's in about 1,700 square foot home. The average other home is about 850.
I don't even live in I live in a 1,500 square foot home, which I find hilarious.
And so his is twice as big as them. It has an attached closed-in screened porch. They don't have anything. They have concrete steps. And then it's also got 2-ish acres of land. Everybody else has maybe 1/4 of an acre.
And he has an HVAC. No one else in that park has an HVAC.
It's like, dude, what are you going to cry about? Of course you're going to be paying the most because you have the by far substantially best system. We gave you a cheap rate so you could like work your way in. Of course, we even told him 9-10 months ago, whatever it was, that we were going to go up next year on him. We were giving him an entry-level rate so he could work on it, get himself stabilized, and then when it goes up to regular market value, he would be more comfortable to do so. And now he's bitching and moaning.
And the thing is that that is actually getting included in the bond art because we gave him, we actually gave him like 40 days advance notice. We're only supposed to give 30. We're generous, 10 days, that's fair. So we gave him a 40-day notice on it. So there's no arguing whatsoever. And in the presence of a police officer while we were there doing the eviction. And it's funny to me because then what he did, he went into his house and he gave us back a list of unreasonable repairs that he's demanding of us. Only 2 of them, which is like the sink leak that's going on. That's fair. That needs to be done. And then he argues that there's a roof leak, but there's no way. Okay. Unless he caused it, there is no way.
Dude, I was so caught off guard when he said roof leak because, first off, if you guys don't remember, we bought this mobile home park from the guy that had it before us. He moved that mobile home in, so 108 was moved in by him, and that guy, the dude that owned it before us, only owned it for about 1.5 years. And then we've had it for about 1 year now. So that's 2.5 years that mobile home has even been in that spot. Maybe. That's assuming he moved it in day one. Then on top of that, when he moved it in, within a couple months of having it moved in, he remodeled the entire floor and the entire roof and added the deck. What do you mean it has a roof leak? And then, of course, the other things he was saying, too, was, like, there's a missing screen on the deck, and we're like, that's not a problem.
Not a problem.
And then some other stuff, too. It was crazy stuff. It
was...
lawn care, and I looked around, I'm like, dude, the grass, I physically was out here 2 weeks ago and cut it. What are you talking about?
No. He needs personalized lawn care.
Yes.
You need to garden the area around.
I literally looked at him like he's an idiot. I'm like, dude, what are you talking about? First off, it's in your contract that you have to cut 6 feet around your spot because that way, in case you have, like, toys or stuff for kids or a doghouse or something, you have your personal area, and then the communal area is everything else. And I literally was looking at his yard, and it's perfectly cut because I physically cut it, and I'm like, what are you writing this for?
Yeah, so
this guy's nuts.
Needless to say, that's getting included in the bond. But here's the important thing about the bond you need to understand: the bond does not include any rent that you did the initial filing for. The bond is only for all rent after that, including, though, the continuations that happened where he had rental payments that were coming up. So as of this moment, he owes us $800 for the 15th of May. And then he's also going to owe us $800. No. I'm sorry, because it's late. $900 for May. Then he's going to owe us $900 for June, because the other thing is too, the bond goes by exactly what's on your rental agreement, which for us is obviously $100 more because we include the late fee into our rent.
Yep.
We give a discount if you sit there and if you pay on time. And so they have that all listed out. But then on July, it goes up. On July 15th, it goes up to $1,300.
Yep.
And he has to keep paying that. And if he is ever 6 days late, writ goes back into effect, appeal gets thrown out, everything is done.
Yeah, so if it in the event happened to go 4 months, that means he would have to pay 1 month of the regular rate at $900 plus catch up what he already owes. And then the next 3 months would be $1,300. So the likelihood that this man is going to stay is very unlikely. And even if he does, it still works out.
Understand, this is a great tool. So, and the thing is, the courts were like flabbergasted of us even asking this, which blew my mind because our attorney told us. Apparently, no landlord, like the judge literally told us, no landlord in her entire area has ever asked for this.
Let me tell you,
in an appeal.
This judge isn't young.
No, she's very experienced.
She's probably experienced longer than I've been alive.
Mm-hmm. She probably has more years of experience because she was studying under the previous judge that was there. She probably has more years of experience than our attorney.
Yeah, so she's been around the block quite a few times, and so even that's why when she was caught off guard when we asked her about how this bond thing works, and she's like, I've had a couple appeals that I've had to handle when it comes to
I had to show her the South Carolina law and exactly what it's out there. It stated, she's like, okay, this looks familiar, but I'm not entirely sure what we need to do.
And so that's when we reached out to her, like, judge hotline. And, and so, yeah, she was like, yeah, this is specifically how it works. She's like, never have anybody ever reached out to me. She's like, typically, this is what caught me off guard a little bit. I kind of understood, but at the same time, I was like, this is dumb. She said, typically, whenever there's an appeal that happens with any type of eviction, no matter how long it takes, most landlords just say screw it and just wait for it to finish out. And then when they lose and get kicked out, being the tenant, then they just pick up their money and they just catch up with the next tenant. And we were like,
that's so unfair.
We were like, okay.
Because then the thing is that any tenant could just even if they are all
just
like
file it anyways.
Yeah, they literally like knocked half the house off. We filed the eviction against them, and then they turn around, they file an appeal. Now you're stuck in however long common pleas takes.
Because how much did you pay? $150 for the appeal?
Yeah, it's $150 for the appeal.
So you got to think about it from their perspective, right? I mean, yeah, you could obviously lose, get a lien or a judgment against you, but let's be real here. First off, you probably don't own anything that matters. So even if you did get a judge or lien against you, you don't obviously have a home. You probably only have cars. And so getting a judgment against a car is a very huge thing.
And like I mentioned last video, by the way, that I wasn't. You know, this guy keeps making me flip-flop my mind. I wasn't going to sue him. Now I have every incentive to also still sue him for the back rent as well.
So basically, here's what's funny about it, right? So if you're a tenant who's falling behind, you could theoretically just, without the bond being a thing, right? You could have theoretically just waited to the hearing, got whatever continuations you wanted, right, or could get afforded to you. Then, at the last possible moment, you lose, get the writ of ejectment. You already got the eviction on your record. Who cares? File the appeal. Pay $150. So in this entire time frame, you've had non-payments for however many months your landlord waited. To say it was 1 month, your landlord waited 1 month. Then you had your hearing, then maybe a continuation or two. So that's probably another month. So now you're 2 months out without paying the landlord. Then you get the writ of ejectment against you. You then file the appeal, which gives you an additional potentially 3 to 4 months. Meaning you're talking like a 5-month window where you didn't have to pay anything other than $150 before you finally get court ordered to get kicked out.
Mm-hmm. That's absurd.
That's ridiculous. So thank God this bond system works, because now...
It's in the Landlord-Tenant Act, by the way.
So now, at worst, the only thing you theoretically get away with is the initial month that you didn't pay. So the first month that you were behind, everything from that point forward will be bonded. This amount here will just be if you can either countersue, or if it was part of the original hearing, they had to pay that then. So,
and I'll say this, I'm very interested, because this will be my first ever court hearing like this. Because again, like we told you guys, as always, we're always learning. Like we don't know everything, and we always find things out along the way. Usually the way you find things out in business is there's a problem. How do you fix the problem? That's usually how you always find out. Yeah, I'm very interested in seeing how this bond hearing is going to go. We're scheduled to go June 9th for the actual hearing. I'm actually curious if the tenant is actually even going to show up because, of the fraudulent colluding judge.
He probably will. but it'll be late. Just like last time, where he showed up 30 minutes
Yeah.
late.
And so it's gonna be interesting. We'll look forward to updating you guys on it, obviously throughout the process. To be honest, the way it's shaping up right now, June 9th June in general might honestly just be a lot of court stuff. That kind of is how it's shaping out so far. Who knows? Maybe we'll take a vacation.
No, it's always skipping courts. So with that being said, we're gonna go ahead and kind of wrap up the video. This last little bit here is obviously just the budget, which really hasn't done anything, honestly, because we didn't really do much. So pretty much everybody paid, except for specifically the 108 tenant. However, if you remember, they did make that partial payment of 1080 on here, which I do gotta add that other 280 in here real quick. So with that being said, in total, we received $4,405. Now, it's technically lower than it's supposed to be for a multitude of reasons. I wasn't thinking straight last video. When we signed the tenants to
124.
124 was also 136. I think it was 136 as well. So when we signed 124 and 136, we included their money into that April budget, without realizing, I guess, that we should have technically afforded a portion of that into May because they had paid rent for May. So maybe they paid a down payment and they paid a first month. Well, that first month was technically May's money. So it was a little overcompensated.
We signed them so late into the month, so we don't prorate, we just forward.
Yeah, so now it looks like we didn't receive money in May, like a lot of money in May, because technically we received it early. So now in June it'll look like we went up a lot when we really didn't. It just looks dumb. So anyway, so I would have to go back and take off 2 of their rent payments, so one for 130 and one for 136, and put it into May, but it's already included in the other one, so I'll have to pick it at the end of the year when I do the yearly budget. I'll do that. But anyhow, back to my point. So we received $4,405. So that's for pretty much all the mobile home park and the payment for the 18 Eagles View Court. The only ones we didn't receive money from is, as we mentioned, we're a month behind currently from 108, and we're also missing 130 because they obviously just gave us the mobile home back, so they haven't made a payment. And then, like I said, 136 and 124, they aren't included in this because they made a payment last month. And then on top of that, the guy at 946 John Hart is interesting to say the least. He is having the hardest time validating his bank account for an online payment system, which I've never heard of being complicated in my life. So basically, if you don't know like anything, they make 2 small deposits into your account. You then find out what those small deposits are. You then go back to whatever thing you're going to for payment portals. You put in those small deposit amounts, and now your bank's linked. It takes all of maybe 30 seconds.
Unless you literally put in the wrong account, then it literally.
Oh no, he validated that the money went into his account, but then when he tried to, I don't know, verify the amounts, he apparently made a whole nother payment, started the whole process all over again. And I'm like, wow, interesting. So he's having a hard time figuring out that system. So I gave him another couple days to figure that out. Otherwise, you got to pay with Cash App because you can't screw that up, I assume. So anyhow, long story short on that one, don't have his money yet. So next month, I'll probably be including it as considered a back amount. So he might be a double payment next month. Then we really didn't have any bills this month because the water bill is technically getting paid in June. Everything else was just the normal stuff. So we have the mortgage, and then we have the lot rent at 18 Eagles View Court. And so our total bill this month was only $2,655. So with that being said, even though we got a significantly lower amount income this month, we're still net positive, which is interesting, of $1,469.50. So we are 3 months in of straight profit, which is interesting because normally we dump all of our money into something like animals. And I'm not kidding. We've never gone more than a month and a half or 2 months with income. We usually already have it into something, which, to be fair, we have already dumped all this money. I will clarify that. We have dumped it into back debts, as we mentioned we would probably do. So
remember all those times we kept saying that we were back-rolling all our basically operating costs and all of our like company startup costs and everything else that we have with costs on the company.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's slowly getting paid off right now.
Yeah, so pretty much it's either kind of two options, right? We're sort of working on a couple deals right now. We're trying to figure out if we can work with them. One's really up in the air. But anyway, so it's either we have a deal and we put the money towards it, or if we don't have a deal, we just dump the money on debt, because at least we can save on the interest of any debts right there while we're figuring out if we want to do a deal. And then in the off chance that we just don't have enough money for the deal, we can always just pull back off of like credit cards or something like that and to pay for the deal, because the deal usually the amount of profit will always outweigh the amount of interest that we receive. So pretty much that's what we did. So instead of letting the money just sit there in the bank for a potential deal, we just dumped it on the debts. So in the event that we don't do a deal, it's already paid. And in the event that we do have a deal, we can always pull it back on. So never hurts either way. Just saves us money in the long term. So with that being said, either way, 3 months in, still looking good. Next month is going to look a lot better, because if this bond goes through, plus, like I said, all the screwed up payments I did with the April thing to May thing.
I mean, the bond literally benefits us no matter what.
Yeah, for real. So either way, that's great. And then after that, the only other thing is we may have some more money because we may resell 130. And yeah, outside of that, I mean, I don't expect June to be very busy at all, because once again, we're pretty much just dealing with this court issue. So outside of that, any other things you want to mention?
Oh, that's pretty much it.
Cool. Well, this was a pretty short video. We'll see you guys in the next month.
Peace.
Peace.